Yo, what's going on, guys? The No Bullshit Podcast coming back at you guys with another video. It's Kai.
Yo, it's Coughlin.
And listen, man, wild divisional round. So without further ado, let's just get right into it, man. Let's start off with the first game of the weekend. We kind of started off with a bang, man. Bills and Broncos.
Yeah, Bills and Broncos. So talking about an overtime thriller. This game, I think it started off pretty slow, at least for the Bills part. They got to a really slow start, but then you saw how Josh Allen and Joe Brady was able to start getting things cooking against that Broncos defense in the second half, where I think they outscored the Broncos, I think by like 10, or at one point they outscored them by like I think like 17 or something like that in the second
Yeah.
half, right until the fourth quarter, right? But man, I'll say this, before we get into the is that a catch or is it not a catch thing, right? But before we get into all of that, look, what I always like to say, and I said this before a long time ago with the whole controversial game with if you guys remember from a long time ago, with it was like with the Saints versus the Rams, right? And the thing I'm trying to bring up is that it doesn't have to come to that point. You know what I'm saying? Josh Allen, although like he had his, I guess, quote unquote late game heroes to tie the game back up and stuff like that. Yeah. Look, the turnovers are inexcusable. You're careless with the ball, right? And who knows, if you were to able just limit that by one or two turnovers, you could have easily won this game, right? And I think especially in the fourth quarter, right? The only way you let the Broncos back in this game after taking the lead is turn over the ball, and you turn over the ball. You know what I'm
hmm
saying? And it's crucial, man. Like, and we always say that, oh, Josh Allen never has a bad playoff game yet. Well, look at this right here. I mean, you can arguably say that he lost his team a chance to go to the AFC Championship. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you saw after the game where he was literally bawling his eyes out because he knew that, like, no matter how, being set back by three turnovers to Broncos team, and even though it doesn't matter how, I guess, how good the other team's offense is, if you give them opportunities, they will make you pay for it, especially in the playoffs. And I think that's definitely a theme that we're going to be tackling on in these next few games here that we get into, right? But yeah, tough loss for the Bills, and for the Broncos standpoint. Look, man, you escaped a win off a bye week. Let's just say that this is a game where you was leading at halftime pretty comfortably, but you let it up. And we've seen that the Broncos are I think they're the highest scoring team in the fourth quarter, and it kind of showed. Shout out to Bo Nix. Whatever opinions you might have about him, he made a clutch throw in the end. I think take the lead. No, not take the lead. He tied the game up, and then ultimately, going down, getting the field goal. And I think he's out now for the AFC Championship because he broke his foot or something like that,
Yeah.
or something of that sort. So I guess it's a Jared Stidham time, and we'll see how that goes against the Patriots. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as an overview, I believe in one of the our last videos, I said something about the Broncos that, like, as great as their defense is, their defense can be had. What I mean, if you are if you have a good offense, there's some holes in this defense, and that was exploited in the second half, man. I mean, you talking about 63 total points, like, what I mean, this a game that probably most people would have thought going into it may have been like more of like a defensive game. It turned into a shootout. Um, Obviously a lot of controversy when it comes to that last interception. But I mean, in my eyes, and this is coming from a Chargers fan, I mean, that's an interception. I mean, you got to survive the ground. And unfortunately, Brandon Cooks did not survive the ground. But a lot of those, even just like you just said, didn't have to come to that. Just on that play, that was an underthrown pass. If he puts that out in front of Brandon Cooks, that's a touchdown. I mean, like, he underthrew it, and that brought the DB into the play. But in my eyes, something that was, obviously the interception ended, the drive ultimately, their season. Um, the bigger miss in my eyes was that McCole Hardman play. He had
Mm,
McCole Hardman wide open. Again, if he hits him, it's a touchdown. Walk off. They're going into the divisional. I mean, they're going to the conference championship. But low pass, and it's unfortunate because really outside of a handful of plays, Josh Allen played well. And it's kind of one of those things that, at the quarterback position, unfortunately, the way certain people view the position, right? It really comes down to, number one, did you win or did you lose? And, how did it happen? You can have the perfect game, throw one bad pass, it turns to a pick six, and you lose. And it's unfortunate that some people will look at that as, you lost them the game, but it's just an unfortunate and unlucky, set of circumstances, and that's why I say all the time, man. When it comes to when we have legacy talks and Super Bowls and all this, man, like shit comes down to luck sometimes, man. Sometimes it's just not your day. Sometimes you just go out there and you have a bad game, right? So I feel like we can't discredit a lot of players, entire seasons and the body of work that they've put on the field with, an unfortunate play or bad play, in any game, especially in the playoffs, right? Tensions are high, right? So it's just unfortunate. And from a Broncos hate watcher, I did not want to see them make it this far, right? So
yeah,
it's just unfortunate all the way around. But listen, I mean, they got it done, and they'll be going on to the next round.
yeah. And just real quick before we move on, it's got to be a sad week for the Bills fans, man. Because, golly, you fire your head coach, but you don't fire your GM. Which I don't know how that happens, but the GM is not. Look, the GM has done nothing to help his case, but somehow I guess he has close ties with the owner somehow, right? And the owner, on the other hand, well, I don't know what he was doing in that end of the season press conference, because he literally, the question did not even involve a guy in Keon Coleman, right? And out of nowhere, he said, "Yeah, the GM basically didn't want to take that guy, you know." And he was like, "There's some other guys that wanted him, so it's not really his fault, brother." The question was like, what have you done? What haven't you done to get Josh Allen the receivers he needs? Like you didn't even have to answer or bring up anybody's name. You had to bring up Keon Coleman. Imagine him at home. He's bro. I'm telling you right now, as a player, his phone is probably getting blown up. 300 text messages either from group chats, family at home, friends, all that stuff. You can only imagine like how the players is feeling, right? Like you drafted him. You guys saw that whole locker room interaction and stuff like that when he got there. But man, like obviously he hasn't been playing his best so far in his career, but doing that it kind of affects his mental. You know what I'm saying? Going to next season, if he will be with the Bills next season, right? And so yeah, it's got to be a sad day for the Bills fans, and yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, definitely. When it comes down to definitions and examples of malpractice, this is as close as it gets, right? Like that's why I'm a firm believer. Not everybody needs to be in front of the camera. Not everybody needs to be in front of a mic, right? In my eyes, the best owners are the ones that get football people to do football things, and they just supply the money. Like,
Yep.
like
Yeah.
once you start dipping your toe into things that you have no experience in and start talking about things that you have no real knowledge of, this is what happens. I mean, you're doing nothing but shooting yourself in the foot. Like you just said, it's already a tough time for fans as is, and then when you have your owner, going on, camera and on mic, just talking out of his ass, it's a tough situation all the way around. As of right now, they're still in the search for a head coach. So only time will tell. Eventually we'll do a video, discussing like the off season and things of that nature, and we'll really dive really into detail on things like that. But yeah, from one fan base to another, man. I definitely feel the pain of Bills fans.
Yeah. And man, talking about pain, let's get into it. Let's not sugarcoat anything. Niners versus Seahawks. We got our ass whooped. All right. Like, look, as the great, wise Marshawn Lynch once said, I'm just here so I won't get fined. You know what I'm saying? but yeah, let's get into it. Uh, that game was hard to watch. You know what I'm saying? Coming in the game, I felt a little bit confident, knowing like, it can't. They can't do it twice, right? They can't do it twice, right? Nah, they did. They did. And you know what? You know what it really showed? It showed not only us Niners fans, but also the people upstairs. That look, in terms of the receiving core, that whole receiving core got to be revamped. It gotta be, and we gotta get faster in general. Guys that can get that are fast, stretch out to defense, and also get separation. And you know what's crazy? I look at the all 22, the tape, dog. Bro, you guys want to guess the average amount of separation our receivers are able to get against the Seahawks receivers? Guys, less than a yard. Less than a yard. That's
Yep.
crazy.
Yep.
Like it's straps. It was straps
Hmm.
all night, man. And when your receivers can't get open and your O line is constantly going through that that crazy D line of theirs, especially in the interior, you got Brock Purdy. I'm pretty sure there was a stat I think halfway through the game or so they pulled up where like the amount of yards Brock Purdy traveled behind the line of scrimmage. That's crazy. Like it got so bad that it got to that point. We making up stats now, guys. We making up stats, right? But look, this game is not on Brock Purdy. I don't care what anybody says. He has nobody to throw to, and even then, he was able to make some plays, but he can only do so much. In a Kyle Shanahan system, when you can't get the run going, and your receivers can't get open, when you're trying to scheme them up, it's a plan made for disaster, right? And look, switching over to the defense. Honestly, in the beginning of the game, they were able to get some stops. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it doesn't also help when like your offense doesn't score points, and and your defense has to constantly get back on the field. You know what I'm saying? But look, my defense, although they had a poor showing, obviously giving up 41 points. Look, I'm gonna tell the whole defense keep your trend held up high. You know what I'm saying? It's a young defense, and look, we did lose Robert Salah. He did join the Titans. Kudos to him. But look, it's a young defense. We're still growing, and we got more pieces on the way. And guys like Fred Warner and Nick Bosa are on track to make it back to training camp. It's going to be an interesting offseason for us, especially on the defensive side, where you got guys where we I think, and we'll probably get into in a different video, but we got to target like guys in a secondary, man, like safety position, like the free safety position. That's a key, and then also just revamping the D line as well. Like I don't know how, but time and time again, when we try to get a guy opposite of Bosa, it doesn't end up working. It does not, right? But it's just one of those things where you got to like go after it. You got to keep on trying, right? Because with a team like this, you can't. The worst thing you could do is not try. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and look, overall, I'm proud of my team. Like, yeah, did we get spanked? Yeah, we did get spanked, right? But look, I'm just happy that we even got to the divisional round. Whole team freaking injured. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, you play the game to play the game, right? And you win the game that's in front of you. Yeah, sure, of course. But circumstances do matter, right? This team, when you talk to everybody in media, everybody, all fans across the league, they did not expect us to be here. You know what I'm saying? Look, it goes to show that we're playing like this, hurt and injured. But so I can only imagine when and if we'll be healthy back next year. So yeah, Niners overall. The overall take is that we just gotta get faster everywhere. You know what I'm saying? But and then the Seahawks, I guess kudos to them. like it's funny because they're gonna go up. It's gonna be an NFC West championship basically again in the championship game. And look, if you're asking who I want to win, all I gotta say is fuck the Seahawks. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, that was a tough one. Tough game all the way around. But I mean, I'd be lying if I said, my brain was saying one thing, but my heart was saying another. You know what I mean? This is a perfect example. You know what I mean? It goes to show like coaching can only get you but so far. Like at a certain point, you just need the guys. You just need the talents. You need the guys to actually go out there and execute. And the guys that they had there on that field, it was unfortunate because all of those guys going into the season for the most part, this was not their role, right? Tonjes, he's been solid in relief of George Kittle, but he's not George Kittle, right?
Even
Like
he got injured.
listen, he got injured in that fumble that he gave up on a promising
Yeah.
drive. George Kittle doesn't do that, right? So it's just unfortunate. A lot of those guys that were playing in this game. It's kind of from a long term perspective. I think it was good. A lot of those guys getting those reps, getting those opportunities. It helps your depth. But you just need your guys back. You need a Nick Bosa. You need a Fred Warner. You need a George Kittle. Like you need those guys. I believe you have those guys. This is a different conversation in terms of how this game goes. It was just on the road, hostile environment. It really felt like once Rashid Shaheed took that kick back to the house, man, it felt like nobody in that crowd sat down for the rest of the game. You know what I mean? Like it. Listen, Seattle was already notorious for being a tough place to play, and when that place is just rocking, making noise nonstop, like listen, that's a tough ass. That's a tough ass from a coacher perspective. It's a tough ass from a player's perspective for you to go out there and win that game. So it's unfortunate that it was so lopsided, but at the end of the day, a loss is a loss, right? So, um, at the end of the day, like you said, if I'm a 49ers fan, if I'm a player on that squad, obviously you want to put out a better showing, but you got nothing but in my opinion positives to look forward to when it comes to next season, right? It's almost as if you're picking up two big free agents in Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, right? Like to where you pick those guys up, they come back to the team, both two leaders in that locker room, both of those guys alone should be able to improve that defense back to
Oh yeah.
its former glory. So in my opinion, like you said, just getting some more weapons for Brock Purdy, man. Like love Juwan Jennings. He's not a one.
Yeah.
Marcus
He's
Robinson
not.
is not a number one, right? Brandon Ayuk is not going to be on this team. Got rid of Debo. George Kittle isn't getting any younger. CMC isn't getting any younger. That offensive line still has holes. Like there are definitely room to improve on that offense. And I think if they have any real aspirations, serious aspirations of competing in such a tough division, you gotta use push all your chips into the middle of the table and use whatever you can to put as much talent around Brock Purdy as possible.
Yeah, basically Jay Jettas. Yeah, basically.
Listen,
Yeah. Hey man. Anything can happen. But look, talking about like a team, that has so much more to looking forward in the future, right? But quite the opposite. Texas versus Patriots, and I'm talking specifically for a Texans point of view. Hey, man, that was an ugly game. That was such an ugly game, right? But let's just talk about it. CJ Stroud. Do I have to say anything else? CJ Stroud, man. Like if you're living under a rock, basically this man turned over the ball within the span of a quarter. I think what 5 turnovers or something like that. 4 turnovers in the first quarter or something like that. It was something crazy. But he ended off the game with like what 7 turnovers or something like that, and it was just bad, man. Just really bad. Like overthrowing balls, fumbling carelessly in the pocket where he was getting pressure, but not really, right? And overall, just like Honestly, that's the theme a little bit of this playoffs. Where like you gotta take care of the football when you're in the playoffs, man. Like especially when you got a defense like that who's also getting turnovers. Like like you turn over the ball yourself negates that,
Yeah,
right? Like honestly, like you probably wasted a like crazy defensive performance and output that we you probably won't get again next season. You know what I'm saying?
hard to say.
Because a lot of things has to happen to work perfectly for the defense to work, do as good or if not even better than that,
Hmm.
right? And it's hard, right? But look, CJ Stroud, honestly, rather as a Texans fan, you got a question: is CJ Stroud the guy? You know what I'm saying? Like, look, he's one of those quarterbacks where what, and I think he's entering year 4, I believe,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Next season should be.
And
Yeah,
honest, and between me and Kai, we feel really similarly with judging quarterbacks. Where year 4 is that year where it's like, look, man, do you got it or you don't? You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're looking at the earlier parts of development, right? And C.J. Stroud, he's been living off that rookie of the year hype, right? But the past 3 seasons, it's been letdowns, right? We're talking about a guy like Bryce Young, right? That was drafted in the same draft class, right? He's been playing very well, but he doesn't have the talent at all. You know what I'm saying? Well, with the Texans, he got the pieces around him, and yeah, he doesn't have Nico Collins, but like he has the coaches around him to make him, in a better situation. Don't turn over the ball, basically. Like I kid you not, you will like they could have won this game easily if they don't turn over the ball as much. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's all I gotta say for the Texans because it was just very ugly from them. And look, for the Patriots, it was ugly for them too on offense. But
yeah,
look, when you give an offense 7 more tries, they're gonna put up points, and that's how they got the 28, right? And look, what did I say? You put Drake May against a tough defense like that, or similarly, right? He's going to turn over the ball. He's that offense is going to have trouble. You know what I'm saying? Because me personally, like, look, Stephon Diggs is good, right? Kenyon Bote or something like that. Booty, yeah, Keishawn Booty, yeah, from LSU, yeah, LSU legend, yeah, yeah, yeah. But he's okay, but he's still developing on his own. And but you got other guys like what Demario Douglas or something like that, and Hunter Henry. Look, it's not the most talented offense in the world. That can get you beat. You know what I'm saying? And look, kudos to the Patriots though. Like, although they made a lot of mistakes, they took advantage of the opportunities at hand, and that's what you gotta do. You know, and Drake May, hey man, can he do it? In his second year as an NFL QB, can he get his team to the Super Bowl? Can he even possibly win a Super Bowl? You know what I'm saying? They're actually perfectly positioned to do so, but you know, it's a tough game. It's a tough game against against the Broncos next week. So it's gonna be interesting for how they handle that environment. Honestly, that's probably the Broncos defense in terms of playoff performances so far. That's probably the worst defense they're going to be playing, right? Give or take. So it's going to be interesting how the Patriots attack that defense. But yeah, shout out to Drake May, and man, she is shout. You gotta look yourself in the mirror, man.
yeah, yeah. I mean, um, before I, get into, the nitty gritty and the numbers of it all, you know, there's a lot of things that go into a bad performance from a quarterback, right? So, as much as I am, a CJ Stroud hater, I do have to give it an ounce of context, right? Where you're talking about your leading rusher is, Jaquavius Marks, 17 yards on 14 carries. In the playoffs, like that's just not going to get it done. You know what I mean? Like you're talking about, you got Higgins and Hutchinson who combined had 23 targets and only 10 receptions. It's not going to get it done. But Just for perspective, right? The worst game. Everybody talks about last season Justin Herbert against the Texans, right? He threw 4 interceptions. He was terrible. He had a QBR of 40.9, right? Pretty bad. CJ Stroud had a QBR of 28. Like, and listen, I would be I would be a hypocrite to say, go out here on the airways and say, well, CJ Stroud needs to get the same treatment that Justin Herbert did, right? And some may say I'll be justified in taking that stance, but listen, I'm gonna take the high road. He's only in year 3. He's only in year 3. It is unfortunate that it seems as if he peaked early, but like I always say, I mean, quarterbacks take time. Quarterbacks take time. Just like how in his rookie season, everybody said he's the next best thing. And in contrast, people said that, Bryce Young was a bust. Not even 2 seasons later, things have completely flipped. Things can change. Players can, there's a such thing as having a bad season, such thing as having a good season. And there's a lot of context that gets lost in the sauce when we have conversations about quarterbacks. So the question does need to be asked, right? Is he our guy? But ultimately, I believe that he is. I believe that, as time goes on in his career, you know, things should get better. This is a hard conference, right? But when you talk about not having your number one wide receiver, not being able to run the ball, you're putting a lot on your, third year quarterback against a good defense to be, to tip the hat over to New England. That's a good defense. So to be handy, be your hands tied behind your back and you still have to carry this team, that's a tough ask. It's unfortunate that again that this is the reason why this team lost, and it seems like a much of a trend in the AFC where there's a lot of championship level defenses in the AFC. It's just unfortunate that these teams just on offense just aren't able to get it done. You talk about hats off to Danielle Hunter, 2 sacks. Will Anderson, who has had an amazing season, 3 sacks. You're talking about 5 sacks between 2 players, 4 fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. Like
Same, man.
this was honestly a generational defense in terms of the amount of talent that was on this roster and the amount of production that they were able to, showcase this season. It's just tough the fact that they ultimately that side of the ball wasn't able to get rewarded with a win. But that's why I believe football is the ultimate team sport. It takes all 3 phases in order for you to win games, especially when it comes to playoff time. And then when it comes to New England, man, New England is so odd to me, because with all that being said, you would expect with everything going wrong with Houston, turn the ball over so much, right? You talk about 6 turnovers that defense caused. They only put up 28 points. They only won by 12 points, right? You would think that they would have won. It would have been a blowout, right? You would have thought they would have won by 20 plus, but they didn't. Um, and this offense, same like I just said, these offenses they can be had. Credit to the defense that they played, right? You talk about a Chargers defense that was top tier, and now facing Texans defense, who we've talked about all season as being top tier. You still would expect this deep into the playoffs a level of identity, a level of
Mm.
consistency, and so far they have not found that. And it's not going to get much easier next week. So obviously we'll talk about that, but you know Drake May, he did enough, right? This run game, they did enough. These receivers, they did enough to get over to the next round, and that's really all you can ask for, right? Did you win the game? When it comes to playoff time, whether you'll take an ugly win as long as you're able to keep fighting another round. So, um, amazing game. amazing playoffs, to be quite honest. But that goes over to the final game of the playoff slate. When you talk about amazing games, man, coming down to the finish, man. This Rams and Bears game, man, it was all that.
Oh yeah, 100%. Mr. Iceman himself, Caleb Williams, game on the line, threw it up. Found Colson Loveland on the opposite end of the field in the end zone, bro. Man, they told us that he wouldn't be able to do the college stuff in the NFL. Guess what? Look at him now. Back-to-back games, man. Ice in his veins. Iceman himself. Mr. Caleb Williams. Man, honestly, as a Bears fan, you gotta be happy. You gotta be thrilled with with the development of your QB, getting the right head coach with Ben Johnson, right? And you get overall getting this team, like not screw the team. Giving the city belief again. You know what I'm saying? Bears fans, they have gone through so much, right? And if honestly, finally, they have a belief that it might be their time in their division. You know what I'm saying? It might be their reign for the next few years, and it's going to be interesting how they attack that offseason because what I'm saying, like they definitely need some help on a defensive side for sure, right? But they also have a lot of draft picks as well to bolster the offense if they really want to go that way as well. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, honestly, Bears fans, look, you lost a tough game, tight game in the end in overtime, right? But you could just be like look, being in the second year of Caleb Williams, you got to be happy with the progress. You know what I'm saying? And that's all you can ask for. But switching over real quick back to the Rams. Well, what can I say? I mean, the Rams, when you give them opportunities, they're gonna find a way to finish. You know what I'm saying? They're a team that when they have the ball last, they're probably gonna win the game. You know what I'm saying? They got a guy like Matthew Stafford who's been there and done it. In my opinion, I've said this even before he was on the Rams. The most underrated, probably one of the most underrated players and QBs in the game until he went to the Rams and won a Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? My opinion, a surefire Hall of Famer. And then you got Sean McVay. You know, he's on his way to be a Hall of Fame head coach. And by some people's standards, he probably is a Hall of Fame head coach, right? But he's been there and done it, and now he has a chance to take his team, to the Super Bowl again and win another one, right? And it's going to be very interesting that a Rams versus Seahawks matchup that we're about to get into for sure. That look, and experience matter in this type of situation. You know what I'm saying? We got a head coach and Mike McDonald, where he has a really good team with him right now, but can he, make the little in-game adjustments that Sean McVay does? You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be the fine margins that you got to win that game. But look, Rams, they escaped. I'm gonna say they escaped, man. Like, and I'll say this: for having a solid defense, it hasn't really shown in the playoffs so far. It has not. You know what I'm saying? And look, all I'll say is this: the Rams, for them to win the next game, they gotta attack Sam Darnold. They gotta attack him. But yeah, shout out to the Rams, making back to the NFC Championship and having a chance to go to the Super Bowl again. And look, Bears fans, let's go. Keep your head held high.
Yeah. I mean, close game. That's kind of been the story of this Rams playoff run. Every game seems to come down to the wire. Every game seems to be close. And what they've shown so far is that that experience has been on their side. Yeah, everybody keeping calm. Everybody, next play mentalities. But it was just when you if you would have told me going into this game, um, like Matthew Stafford doesn't throw a single touchdown. He gets sacked 4 times. Puka Nakua has less than 60 receiving yards. I would say, this defense didn't get a single sack. Like, I would have said, oh my God, the Bears are going to the NFC Championship game. But in this reality, no, they actually won the game. So it's just crazy how, you know, things can change, but like every game, turnovers are what matters most. And the Rams won the turnover battle, and they ultimately, that was the difference. But me personally, that's kind of I remember I spoke about it a little bit in one of our episodes about that Jaguars reporter when she was talking to Liam Cohen. And to be honest with you, after seeing that video, I've already kind of felt this way, but after seeing that video, that's kind of reaffirmed this in myself, where I'm like, listen, man, like, just because these teams, their season ends, doesn't mean that we have to speak about them negatively. You know what I'm saying? Not
Exactly.
We don't have to say, okay, this person needs to be fired and this person needs to be traded. Like, so, like, with that being said, like, to the Bears, man, hats off to the Bears. Nobody thought at the beginning of the season they would make it this far. Nobody thought that they would be, you know, they were playing with house money, right? Like, so when you talk about building, this is a season to build on. The first season with Ben Johnson, he takes you to the divisional round where you're 3 points away. I guess technically 4 points away from going to the NFC Championship game. Like, this is the standard now. This is the bar, right? So if I'm a Bears fan, this is a time to be excited, not to be upset. I mean, obviously it happens, right? Just being natural, being a fan, you're going to be upset if your team loses. But this is a time to be excited for the future, because the future is very bright in Chicago. I believe that to be honest, they have the pieces. It's just about maturing together, getting better together. You know, who knows if a player like DJ Moore will be there for that.
Mm.
There's already been discussions throughout the season of him being traded, and man, that interception, that was just a bad rep on tape. Bad body language. Didn't want to speak to the media. It'll be it'll be interesting to see how that offseason goes, but I believe that the future is very bright in Chicago. I feel like they have the pieces. Like, I'm a very big believer in Caleb Williams. I was a believer in him coming out of college. Really, all three of those guys, those top guys coming out of that draft, I was a big fan of. So I feel like, interestingly enough, like, 2 seasons into all their careers, and they're having playoff success. It's very rare you see that, right? So I believe all those guys, hats off to them, hats off to the Bears, man. And I do believe that, man, if they keep this up, they could have a run here at this division. I think they could put their paws on this division for quite some time. But with that being said, man, getting into these conference championship games, man. We already alluded to them. Patriots and Broncos and Rams and Seahawks. You know, who you got, man?
Early off predictions. Look, man. My gut feeling. I got a Super Bowl rematch. I got Patriots and Rams
Ooh,
back in the Super Bowl. My first initial takes about it is like, why do I have the Patriots and Rams moving forward? The Patriots, they just have that sneaky, like, I don't know, grit of something. That thing about them, about a championship team, where, like, no matter how bad it's going, they're gonna find a way to win. You know what I'm saying? Having a guy like Mike Vrabel, who he's from New England, obviously, he understands the way of how to win. You know what I'm saying? It might not look the best, it might not look the greatest. It can be ugly at times, right? But you gotta stay strong, gotta stay together. It's all about staying together, staying composed, and during the pressure. You know what I'm saying? It showed. It showed. You know what I'm saying? And for the Rams, look, Seahawks. Don't get me wrong; they have a very good team, right? But I'm looking at the past two matchups. Past two matchups, the Rams get off to a hot start, but it's about, can the Rams, step on a step on a gas, you know what I'm saying, and not let go. Because the Rams, if they don't let up, they can honestly easily win this matchup. And I'm going just based off the last two matchups. And so, look, it's going to be an interesting game. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout, but I definitely will be close. But I have the Rams winning because of that and experience. Like Sean McVay, he's been there and done it. Mike McDonald. It's a question mark so far. Has he passed the test on certain levels already? Yeah, 100%. You know what I'm saying? But look, if you want to terms in college terms, this is the final exam or one of the final exams. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's a big test. And is he gonna be ready for it? We'll see. You know what I'm saying? Sam Darnold, he is fighting through an oblique injury where, although he did beat the Niners pretty single handedly, he was moving very awkward in that pocket. You know what I'm saying? And so, like I said, it's going to be about that Rams. Can they get enough pressure on Sam Darnold to create more turnovers to give the ball back to number 9 in Matthew Stafford? So yeah, I got Patriots and Rams back in the Super Bowl, and who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, is interesting, right? Like when I'm again, like when I'm using my brain, right? It just makes sense, right? The top two MVP candidates, they battle it out. They somehow make it to play against each other in the Super Bowl, and they just battle it out, right? Um, but I don't know, man. Like something is telling me when you talk about Super Bowl rematches, something is telling me we're gonna get Broncos and Seahawks. That something is telling me that we're gonna get Sam Darnold versus Jarrett Stidham in the Super Bowl. I don't know what it is. It feels like, you know, obviously from a fan perspective, we want the big name quarterbacks. For some reason, it feels like the Super Bowl guys, they're not going to give us that this year. They're going to give us Sam Darnold and they're going to give us Jarrett Stidham. And when it comes to matchups, right? Like I just said earlier, that Patriots offense, like they have shown weaknesses. They have shown chinks in the armor. And obviously I feel like, if player for player, I feel like the Patriots do have the more talented offense, but it would not surprise me one bit that the football guys pull, a Nick Foles type run out of their ass, and Jarrett Stidham just does enough to get them into the next round. And when it comes
They
over
won.
to the Rams and Seahawks, I don't know, man. That Seahawks defense has been looking scary all season. It's just like I feel like they're very similar to the Legion of Boom, where if Sam Darnold can just be a young Russell Wilson, a game manager, the purest definition, just do enough to not lose us the game. Us as a defense will do the rest. And so far this season, he's done an amazing job at doing that. So even with him being injured, I think, he still has guys to lean on. He still has a Kenneth Walker. He still has a Jackson Smith and Jigba. He still has a Cooper Cup. The amount of tight ends that they have. It's just, I don't know, man. It's just something that's telling me. So my prediction, we're gonna get Seahawks and we're gonna get Broncos. Which for us, there is no winner. There
Yeah,
is no winner.
yeah,
If we somehow get that Super Bowl matchup, man, there is no winner for us.
yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be tough. Honestly, no matter what, it should be two very exciting games, right? And whoever wins goes to the Super Bowl. That's also gonna be a very exciting game. You know what I'm saying? And it goes to show throughout this whole playoffs, it's been nothing but cinema, man. It's probably one of the most enjoyable playoffs that I've been through in my whole life. You know what I'm saying? Like, when have we had like multiple overtime games,
Yeah.
multiple game defining moments? When do we have where you could argue to say every single playoff team has a great defense? Not including ours, but you know what I'm saying, right? But yeah, look, it's been a very enjoyable run right now, and look, it ain't stopping yet. It ain't stopping yet. You know what I'm saying? So yes, stay tuned. That's all I gotta say. You gotta stay tuned.
Yeah, man. I mean, what do you guys think? Right? Like who do you think wins these matchups? What is your Super Bowl prediction? Are you a Seahawks fan? Are you a Rams fan? Are you a Patriots fan? Or are you a Broncos fan, man? Like, if you are, how do you feel? Your team's chances are. How do you feel that they've done so far, man? Definitely, again, we appreciate all the love and support you guys have been showing us on this playoff content. We're gonna keep the train rolling. We're gonna keep pumping out videos for you guys. Make sure you guys, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Definitely comment down below. And with that being said, man, it's been a No Bullshit podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Peace.